browser with the live in it. Here we go. I didn't log into Stream.io. Let me just see. Oh man. The bane of long passwords. When you're in a hurry, they never work out. So how's your week been?
Good. I've been busy.
Yeah.
Just really busy. Just with work, not so much real life. Kids started first grade doing the distance learning thing. That's an interesting deal, you know. For adults, it's definitely easy. For children to be expected to sit in front of a computer for any long majority of time may be considered unreasonable, but
right. Great.
Yeah, but so far so good. I mean, I think from at least the schools that we're involved with here in Las Vegas, it's actually been going quite well. They do a lot of breaks in between, right? They do a lot of Zoom calls throughout the day to ensure participation and activity. But yeah, definitely interesting.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, but that's my wife's burden to bear at this moment.
Not yet. Oh man, I don't think I did this, redid the password for live share and didn't store it for Restream. Are you logged into Restream where you can see people's comments?
Let me jump into that, sir.
All right.
Let me jump into that, sir.
Right.
Let me jump into that, sir.
Got a loop going on. Sorry.
No, it's cool.
Over here. All right, I'm gonna start sharing my screen. So we had last time around, which was a month ago, because we took a hiatus, we had looked at a code counting utility and had configured it to work under GitLab. In the meantime, their A Cloud Guru approached me about writing some sort of article about Git. And so I thought this would be a good topic. So that was just published this week. And it's got quite a few enhancements versus what we did in the plugin. So my thought is to try to take these enhancements and stick them in the plugin. The long and short of it is this article, I guess I could spend a little more time, not spin through it quite so quick, but the long and short of it is, in this article, the idea is we want to count our code, right? And we don't want, if we have a big repo, it might have a ton of history and it might have binaries in it, and we don't need any of that junk to count. So what I did was I took the www.gitlab-com repository, and I did a normal Git clone. And so this information is right here. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Oops. So I did a normal Git clone here, regular size and optimized size. So without doing anything special to my Git commands, just do a Git clone and check out of the default branch. The Git folder itself is 4.2 gigs, so a lot of history. It takes 21 minutes for the clone to happen. Then when you extract the files are, there's another 2.7 gigs of actual files. So you'd actually add these two together to get that whole folder size. Checkout time's 27 seconds. It checks out 15,000 objects. So this is kind of how a lot of people do their clones, right? Just a straight clone, which does a default branch checkout. And on big repos, it can be a big problem. So one interesting thing about the article is you can use it also just for normal times when you've got to reduce the amount of files coming out of Git. It uses the top, well, it uses all three of the known optimizations that I know of to do. So when we use those optimizations, we get 111 meg Git folder. It takes only 46 seconds to bring it down. Also, I guess, Jefferson, a lot of people don't realize that when you say git clone. On the back end in GitLab, there's a server called Gitly, a service called Gitly. Sometimes it's running on its own server with your storage. Sometimes it's running in just your GitLab instance. But that server has to create a pack file full of objects before it sends it. And you can actually see it in the client. It says creating pack file. And you're like, why is it creating a file? I'm asking it to bring files down and extract them, right? What's it creating? That's actually happening on the server side. And so what this does is it makes that operation a lot more efficient and quick. Then it comes across the wire, which is quicker. And then when it extracts it, it's a lot quicker. Well, first of all, we don't even extract it initially. We just do a clone with no extraction. And then we just extract what we want. And then, so then the GitLab folder is only 260 megs, but if I'm only counting source code, all I need is the latest copy of everything, right? I don't need 5 years of history or whatever. Took 19 seconds still for checkout. I'm not sure exactly why. Only 4,400 objects checked out. And then on the line of code counting, there's some slight differences. If I really wanted to dig deep, I could find out, exactly what was going on there. But for my intents and purposes, if you're going to be counting millions of lines of code across many repos, this margin of error is probably good enough compared to not being able to count at all.
That is interesting, though. The
Yeah.
diff.
Yeah, I learned a lot about partial clone. So partial clone was part of what's going on here. So you filter out so that no actual file content comes down, just the Git database, so to speak. Then a shallow clone, so depth 1, because I don't care about old versions of the code. And then a sparse checkout. So in sparse checkout, you create a file with the file extensions you don't want. Well, you can actually use anything that you use in git ignore. You can use that kind of syntax to decide what to include or exclude. So I just exclude a lot of the binaries that I pre-researched were in this repository. So those three together are what kind of create the efficiencies at various different levels.
It's cool. And I think from what I understand, though, with a partial clone too, is not that I see a lot of use cases for submodules, but I don't think the partial clone works for submodules.
Oh,
within Git. Yeah. So I think they're still working on getting that implemented, but for those using submodules.
Right. And for anyone who doesn't know, a submodule is when you have a Git repo inside of a Git repo that is supported. And it used to be a way to kind of work on part of a repo. I also wondered, Jefferson, too, if some of this, not sparse checkout, which one of these? Partial clone could also help with that, so that even if you had everything in one big repo, a person can work on just a subset of it without having to check everything out. But
if not using submodules, that's I think the preferred method now. From what I've seen, like I said, I don't see a lot of submodule use, but we do get a lot of feedback that there are places that do use it, firmware companies, things like that, pretty heavily. And I get it, like it's actually kind of a nice feature, less to think about. Where partial clone, you kind of have to be specific, right?
Yeah. The other interesting thing about all of this with the partial clone that I discovered was what happens is it doesn't bring everything down to the client. But if you do a checkout and there's a couple binaries in there you need, it then at that point does a mini kind of clone almost. So you see it saying compressing objects, shipping them down, extracting them. So it's in the case, this is the most efficient way to start a repo. In the case that you need binaries, if your checkout implies it, then they will come down. The sparse checkout is different. That filter prevents actual checkout locally. So partial clone prevents them from coming down at all.
It's kind of cool too.
Yeah, so it seems like if you check a different branch out, you'll get everything you need with this this approach. So for CI, this could be huge just for your regular CI. If you know you just need, if you have some repo that's just gigantic with history or binaries, but you don't need the binaries in the build process. And also, if we can get to it in the live coding, we could do Git strategy none. So a lot of people might not know that in GitLab CI, normally the repo gets replicated and the branch gets checked out for you. But if you do a git underbar strategy :none in your variables, it doesn't do any replication of the repo, and then you can take full control. So you could take this approach and fully control what's going on. So
that's awesome. No, really cool. Good deep dives, man.
Yeah, and then counting code. So this is kind of an example of how you would do counting code if you didn't use a special utility. And there's a lot of downsides to it. It's not eliminating comments, which most DevSecOps utilities that charge for code are not going to charge you for comments if they're counting lines. Now, interestingly, the author of SCC was awesome. There was a couple features that he added for this article to be published. So I'll highlight those as we go through. So this is the output that we're looking at, the normal output of SCC. It's focused on source languages. And then this just gives you an example of how to get the above out. But then there's a couple things that were challenging. One was it would be really cool if the counting utility would count megabytes as well. So Ben was able to fairly easily add it so that it will count the total megabytes of all files that counted. It doesn't do it by language, which may or may not be important to most folks. And then also, normally SCC, you have to run it multiple times for multiple outputs. So I was trying to reduce that by one by outputting HTML and then running a special utility to put that HTML out to a console ASCII format. But then you'd have to run it again if you wanted HTML easily viewable in GitLab's artifacts. But if you also wanted JSON so you could later import it somewhere else, well, then you have to run it again. And when you're using even this repo, it's lightning fast. However, if you're doing like hundreds of repos, then running it twice might actually be a significant amount of CPU. So he was able to enhance it so that with one run, you can output multiple formats: console, HTML, JSON. So big shout out to Ben. Thanks so much for
Awesome.
open source, taking a couple feature requests and working them in. It was a fun and agile experience working with Ben. Then the other thing was counting actual binaries. So this little bit of code I worked out to, I obviously just started by culling the internet for stuff to start with. But then eventually I ended up so that I got to learn how to use awk better than I ever have before. By creating headers and footers, I was able to create an HTML output and a JSON output using find and egrep and du. So here's the code. I think, yeah, here's the final code that will work into our solution. And then here's the final output of all of this. So,
Nice.
yeah. So if we go look at what we were building, we put it here, code counter. I found a little icon to indicate countering, dressed it up a little bit. The coder, that's their big contribution to design, right? Is your repo icon. That's like, I feel like I'm on the edge of graphic design as I create an awesome repo icon.
Using GIMP, what tools are you using there?
I use Inkscape, and actually recently, I was like, man, it's a little bit hard to use. I want to find something else. And then actually my sister-in-law was also asking a question, how can I make logos in some easy software? So I went through all kinds of products, trying to find a cheap or free one that worked on Mac and Windows. And my brother actually steered me to Serif products, the Serif Designer. But none of them were nearly as rich as Inkscape. So I ended up right back on Inkscape for vectors. But yeah, I tend to do vectors or converts. In Inkscape, you can convert rasters to vectors, and then they're scalable, so you can use them for this or blog article or whatever. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that particular graphic that's there, I found the graphic somewhere, I think so. So this is our previous one. It's quite simple. It's just going and installing the SCC utility and we're using the Golang container to start with, and then simply running an HTML report and we're done. And then we expose that in the actual merge request if there is one using this expose as parameter that we talked about last time. So if we go ahead and edit this guy, I'm going to do it right in the browser and see if that's workable. In this code, I'm just going to think grabbing it in the browser will be okay. We'll see. If not, I've got the original article source to grab it from.
Yeah, I always throw it in a. We'll see. See how this handles.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do that. Now that's not.
That's what I typically do.
Tell them what you're going to say. Tell them
I always throw it in an IDE, in my own IDE locally, or any other text editor, right, before actually posting. But that's just out of habit.
when you've copied it off the web, right?
Yeah, when I've copied off the web, just because of that reason right there.
Yep. Here, look at this. We got styles being applied because it's part of. Okay, so that's. I'm gonna go get the code from.
There might be a better way, but
no,
it frustrates.
Some sites will end up having the ability to get a clean ASCII copy with a special control. So,
fun fact, as I was saying, because we were talking about earlier, I was getting, and we'll do an episode of it too, getting GCR images pulled into GitLab for use, right? So being able to use an image that's in GCR and use it into a job in the CI/CD for GitLab wasn't so friendly at getting in, and so I learned quickly. For base 64, there's a -W0 for no line wraps. So you get no line wrapping. So it's one single line of code base. Found out that, hey, Linux supports that no problem. Mac OS apparently does not.
Right.
So that's something fun to know. But so I was bringing that up for the text editor copy and paste, is that a space matters.
Yes. It's funny. I was, before coming to GitLab, Windows all the time. Last organization I was at, you could choose Windows or Mac. And here we can only use Mac, as a lot of people know. But I frankly didn't know that Mac wasn't Linux. So there's a lot of have you ever, even the ls command, you can't put the options at the end. They have to come at the beginning, and little tiny things like that are just like drive me crazy.
I know, it hurts my soul a little bit. It really. I just need to get a Linux machine and call it good. And then I'll be complaining about something else. Don't worry.
Yeah, I do play with Linux Mint on the side. So what we'll do is we'll go through here and break this down slowly. So first of all, it's using the Alpine image. And so I believe, yeah, the reason I did this was I needed to install some things, and the Golang container is a minimal Linux distro with no, I think it might be the BusyBox. And so it has no package manager. So if you want to install something, you're all of a sudden into like a massive rabbit hole. So I switched up, I'm sorry, the default Golang container was that way. The Golang has an Alpine specific container that it builds as well. So I used that. So it was still Golang, but it was not the default, which is, I think, BusyBox, as small as possible. I'll actually just leave this comment there too. So that's where we would put that. I worked out the code. I purposely did it on Docker so that I could work out, anybody could run the sample. I don't have to worry about what OS they're on. So we will remove these because they're elsewhere in the code. So the first thing we'll do is an APK, that's the package manager for Alpine, and we'll get this W3M. We also need at least Git 2.25. So I think in the article it talks about partial clone has a certain minimum requirement, and then something else has a certain minimum requirement. And that might have been another problem I was having, was the version of Git on that default container was giving me some trouble. So then we go get SCC with the, after with Go, we go get the SCC. And here's where we start working with our data. So we're cloning the GitLab, one of the main GitLab repositories. Just gonna give it some space here. And we're doing depth 1, which is known as what, Jefferson? On a quiz. I gave you a quiz. Uh-oh, on live coding.
Depth one of the, I always look at the directory.
Yeah. Depth one is actually shallow clone. So it's saying only one commit. Let's say, give me everything, but only one commit back. Now, it doesn't mean just the last commit of the repo. It means if you got this file and it's 8 commits ago was the last time it was changed, you'd get just the one last commit of anything that you're getting. So it's called shallow clone, and you can give it a depth of whatever you want. This is the new partial clone support. So this is saying I don't want any file blobs in my Git history. So this is that new capability. GitLab worked together with Microsoft and the Git community to implement this. But it basically is saying, don't bring the file blobs into history. Only when I do a checkout, do you actually go get files from the Git server. No checkout is normally a clone will dump your default branch. So we're saying, no, I don't wanna. And then somehow this got mangled, but good thing we're looking through it here. So we go and get this repository, which is a public repository.
Gotcha.
We then switch into the subfolder that is implied by this repository. And then we configure sparse checkout. So sparse checkout, you have to turn on an option, and then you configure this file here. So it's .git/info/sparse checkout, and you configure, this is messed up too, it should be on the next line. You configure the items that I'm doing excludes, so you can see because I've got the exclamation point that I'm excluding GIFs, PNGs, MP4s, JPEGs, so all of those are being excluded. In the article I talk about, there's this tricky thing you can do by putting a Git, it's not Git ignore. There's a special Git file that you can create that has these in it, and you can use it for this as well as the sparse partial clone or something like that. So that's another way to do it. I didn't want to do it in a way that required a file in the Git repo that I'm pulling, because I just want to pull it and count it. So I don't want to have to make a, but if you were regularly counting everything, you could put these files right inside your repo.
That's cool.
Checkout master. We're going to time it just to see how lightning fast it is. And so that's kind of, the above here is the equivalent of what we were doing before, only now this is fixed to a given repository. So we're working on a given repository, which will, in one of our iterations here, we'll try to fix this and make it parameterized.
Do we have to add that strategy, Git strategy of 0?
In this case, it's going to check itself out, which is very small.
Okay.
But we could, as we work through, once we get this working, we could do the Git strategy so that this existing repo doesn't clone. Although I guess if you were always cloning in the counting repos, but the goal I'm thinking of is you never have to put this into the repo you want to count. You just suck those repos in.
Gotcha. Okay. So a template. Yep.
Right. To have to add this code to every repo you want to count. So I'm hoping we just take repos as, if we can get through it today, we'll do at least try to parameterize for one repo. Eventually, I'd like to get it where you can give me a list of repos, and we'll assume the runner has permissions to all those repos and can use its local token, or that they're public, and just pull everything down. Here's one of the new parameters that have been added, multi-format. So before it could only output one format. So I'm saying for HTML, give me a file called lines, LOC, lines of code HTML. For JSON, give me lines of code JSON. Oops.
That's cool.
Must be a different command. I found this guy, Jefferson, could come in handy for a lot of CI, but W3M takes an HTML file and dumps it. Oh, wait a second. It dumps, it's going to dump the HTML file to a text file. But why don't I have a name for the text file? I forget what the default's going to be called. We might have to look that up. But this cool little utility lets you, so then you always have the trouble that you want to see it in the log, and you also want to see it as an artifact file. And then whatever you're doing, if you have to run it twice, it's a pain in the butt, right? Oh, this is going to dump to the console. That's what it's doing. So unless you give it another file name, I think it's going to dump to the console.
It goes out, standard out automatically.
Yeah, so then I can get my console output and my collectible HTML output with one command.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't played with the W3M
Yeah, I didn't even
at
know.
all.
I was just all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, I'm getting HTML. Is there a way I could dump that to just like, and of course it's smart enough to take a table. The problem is we have a table in there. So to take a table and present it in ASCII in the log is not simple to do hand coding. So this little utility is smart enough to strip the table off, but make it kind of into a ASCII table.
That's cool.
Then this code here, I wanted to count binaries. I talked to Ben about possibly counting, like some security scanners literally can deal with compiled binaries, but they also charge by the bytes of compiled binaries. So I wanted to emulate that in here. So let's say, I don't know, your Windows and you have compiled DLLs, either the build makes them or you have them in your repo, hopefully not, but maybe you do. So then to be able to count those as just file bytes, not try to count any lines, obviously. So you can do it with DU. The challenge is getting formats that display as HTML or JSON. So that's what this code is doing. And 2 lines got munged together here somewhere. Oh no, I guess I just dumped it. I thought I did JSON here somewhere too, though. This time in here again.
Yeah, CSV,
okay. So
HTML.
Yeah. So this first one's doing a CSV output, and it's using awk to just put headings on the code. Awk also does some math, though. So I used it to take bytes and get close to megabytes. Then the second call for the same thing eventually pipes into DU, and then I used awk's header and footer to put all the HTML dressing on it. And then dump that to the console, so we have some console output. See what should we collect for artifacts here then? I guess.
That's a good question. That's a good. I'm trying to think about the repo that you grabbed.
Okay, so loc HTML will be our output from the counter. Loc JSON, so that would be our data output for the counter.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious to see what we get back.
Okay, and then binary size, CSV, and binary size HTML. Right, now we get to figure out how wrong this is. So this should all work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what I'll do is, one of the cool things about, obviously I don't work in a web IDE all day long, but there are some cool things about GitLab's web IDE. One of them is you can work on multiple files and do one commit. You can create new files, rename files. So if you've ever been on GitLab or GitHub and you click just edit file, you can't do a lot of things like renaming or deleting or adding folders. But then also every time you save an individual file, it's a new commit. So you commit, 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 commit. So it's a lot harder to sit there and do any multi-file stuff. So we'll commit this. I guess we'll be good boys and do a branch, right?
Yeah, I'd recommend. I've been breaking master all day, so.
You've been doing what?
I've been breaking my own project master all day, so my own default branch. So.
Okay, so pipeline is kicked off, and I'm going to do a merge request too, just for fun.
Cool.
Pipeline. Wow, it's working a lot better now that I don't have the lazy browser response that we had last time.
Yeah, it's actually quite fast.
Were you able to get onto Restream.io?
No, it wouldn't let me in.
Okay.
But it's my own personal problems that I'm running into.
No problem. If you have a question, I can see it on Twitch. I can see the conversation on Twitch, but not YouTube. So if anybody's on YouTube and you're trying to communicate with us, if you can go on over to the Twitch channel, which is www.twitch.tv/Mission Impossible Code. If you have questions you want to submit. Job succeeded. Oh my goodness.
Damn, already, huh?
Yeah, I don't trust it. Well, it's one of those experiences where the first time you run the code, it says it worked. It's like, yeah, I don't know about that.
I know.
So here's our artifacts over here. Let's browse them. Oh, see, that's not right.
It's only one artifact.
Not only that,
Output.
it's the one that, the name of the one that was in the old. Yeah, they only did the.
So I wonder if we have it
You're doing the wrong.
in the template. If we actually.
Let me make sure it's in the right.
My mind.
All right.
Yep.
Weird.
So yeah, we can take a look at that.
So go back in here and do web IDE. We're not asking for any of that. Oh, what does this guy have? No.
I wonder if.
I should look.
No.
Should look closer at the log because maybe.
Everything looks good on that. See, we can look at the job logs. And we can turn a debug trace on there too if we need to. Uploading artifacts, found one matching files and directories. So only found the one.
Well, it's running the totally code though. Look, it's not even what we just edited. So did something wrong here. Maybe it didn't run. No. Oh yeah. How old is this pipeline? 2 minutes ago.
Interesting.
What's in our code? See, I told you I didn't trust it.
Yeah. We can go to your plugin extensions.
Oh, you just nailed it. Look,
Yeah.
right here. No, I don't have a ref. I was going to say.
I was going to say, I think you had a ref. Okay.
Wait, GitLab CI.
The file name didn't change. No.
That's bizarre. I'm just going to do the dumb thing and run it again. Stop.
Okay.
It's so cheap to run it again.
Oh, something else we could do is clearing the runner cache. I think we have that possibility within.
Okay.
That could be runner cache just picking up the old job.
It's just straight Golang. It's still pulling the old container.
Oh, you don't have a Docker file or anything like that in there, do you?
No, these are all of our files.
Okay.
I'm referencing. Oh, I wonder if this comment is posing anything up. Can we do comment? Can YAML take comments on the same line?
I thought I could. I'm trying to think about this. Why is this not what's happening right now?
Darwin just starts hammering away because he's too impatient to think about it too much.
That's okay. That's fine. I'm gonna jump into that repo.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's see what I
enabled multi-sharing too, so if it's not confusing enough to have two of our heads on the screen, we can have two heads.
See what I can find out here. GitLab extension. It's always something silly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Including that extension.
There we go. Okay, so code counter. Oh, it's like your commit didn't go through.
What do you mean?
Well, let me jump on your branch. I guess that makes sense. Let me see what we got.
The web IDE thought it went through.
File. He ran the pipeline again. Okay, so pipeline's running. But interesting.
Says Golang again.
Yeah, it does. Let's see. Image, Golang, scripts. I'm going to double check that real quick.
Remember that weird problem we had last time that on an include file, I thought I boiled it down to not changing the first line caused problems with it appearing. I wonder if this is causing problems changing.
It's because this is interesting. This is a good one, dude.
Yeah.
So you don't have a job specified, right?
Correct. It's very minimal.
Yeah, but I think you would need a job, but
no, I got a job, just no stage.
No stage, right? That's right. That's
well,
not good.
Code. It wouldn't just run nothing.
That's what I thought.
If it doesn't like it, it should just do nothing, right?
Yeah, that's how I expected it to be. Yeah. So there's your.
I'm going to change the first line here.
Okay. I wonder if, yeah.
It's weird.
So included.
Not that one. Change the first line.
There's gonna be something. Extending. So we get in template extensions. Perfect. Expose as extension.
What is stuck?
Jeez.
If I visit the repo from scratch, in here, we should see the code that we're actually having run right now. It's master. Yeah. But if we go, ooh,
Okay.
I wonder if, because we have a local file, it's not self-referential. It's actually referencing master on the include. That's my guess. And there's nothing here.
Yeah.
So we add ref. Oh, now Tim and I worked out how to make this soft coded. Where did we do that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's do guided explorations. Tim Poffenbarger is a associate of ours, and he's out on paternal leave. Congratulations to the new
For sure.
family edition. Self-modifying, share variables across pipelines. This guy's. It's really hard to get this stuff to be self-referential on includes. Okay, I think it's this one.
In like version.
I think we do a needs. I think it's in the needs in the call by. Okay, this one's not soft coded. Okay, let's see here. There. So then.
Nice.
But that's a needs, but maybe, let me see if we also have a fix in here. It'd be easier just to do it in one place. Where's my include?
That's kind of cool. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, so it looks like this is when it's crossing a boundary to a child pipeline specifically. So let's go and look at just doing this ref on the parent of what we're working on and see if we can fix it up. So we're basically saying, instead of defaulting to master branch, now we want you to go to whatever commit ref name, and this will either be the tag or the branch, depending on what you built. If you build a tag, it ends up being a tag, I believe.
Okay.
What do you think? Think we're on the right track? I
haven't played with that yet, so.
and our current experiences as of this moment are making you.
That's. I mean, it's a good thing. I think it's cool.
Oh, dead play.
I got it. Does not exist.
Oh, you know what? And this one I'm passing it at. So let's go back to, because it was a past variable. So
it's got to be stated.
That's not an actual default CI variable, I think. So we passed this.
CI commit ref.
Oh, wait a second.
I thought that was a, hang on, let's see. I know the CI commit. No, I thought that was a variable.
Okay. Why is it got nothing in it? When
that's the. So it should. I don't know what the default is though. Let's see. It's gonna be per your branch.
Let's say I'm not even existing though.
So,
go away.
CI commit _ ref name.
You ever need to know this stuff? You go to GitLab CI
variables.
Variables, and then there's that sub page for predefined variables. So here it's in my browser cache, but if you go to variables, there's a link to predefined variables, and that's what CI
commit
name
for
which the project is built. You know what? I think it might be that you can reference. It will resolve a variable on a needs, but it doesn't do it on an include. I think I remember it doesn't yet do it on an include. So that would explain our current problem is it can't actually resolve a variable here. And then when it's in the log, it says
doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah, because it thinks that should be an actual literal like branch name. Let's test this theory by giving it an actual branch name. And then if it works, we'll just change it, merge to master and stop. Okay.
You hit that rocket ship over in the, go back to your web IDE and then hit that rocket ship over on the right.
What, is it going to blow me up or something?
No, yeah. And then from there, that link above of the pipeline, you can click.
Oh. Look, I can see the log right in here. That's great.
Yeah.
Right here.
Right there, yep. And then it will automatically open a new page.
Pipeline, nice.
Yeah.
That in context, though, it's almost like a real IDE, local IDE, where you can.
Yeah, and we have the web IDE terminal too on the right side below the rocket ship. You do have to do some pre-configuration, but ideally you can see it through the terminal there too.
Okay, so
the actual work being done.
Wow.
Yeah. I have yet to turn mine on, but.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Alpine, we're on our way. So that it was that ref problem. So unfortunately, that implies you got to do this on master. So you might have to make a copy of your repo if you're playing around with something that's. Okay, so we're cloning GitLab.
I'm sure you could add a variable in there. I'm sure it has something to do with artifacts, but you could probably add a variable in there. Or not a variable, but a.
Well, on includes, I think I've run into this before where on includes specifically, it won't expand variables, but I guess the needs artifact from a child pipeline has been enhanced to allow a variable expansion. So I think that might be what we're hitting. I believe there's an issue out there for variable expansion on ref. So right here, we can't use a variable.
Yeah, I run into moments of that as well. Especially like on parallel. So if you want to do parallel tests and parallel parallelization on a particular job, it too doesn't allow for reference variables.
Okay.
Or variable what is it called? Interpolation.
So tell me bad regex. So I know this.
Oh, here we go.
It's regex hell time. Everybody's favorite time.
That's right. Here we go.
All right. So where's my editor? Let's see here. This is
bad regex. It starts at invalid character range.
So did it run anything? It's okay. So we got to the point where we're trying to do those JPEGs and PNGs.
Does it just need double quotes?
It's on the egrep -O. Oh, look at that. There's see, look at that. There's a space.
There's a break. Yep.
So that's our, the, what do you call it? The flowing of the text in the, I pulled this out of a PDF, so I still didn't learn my lesson. Are there any more of these?
Under past, I don't know if it may be right. Paste -- I don't know if that's
paste.
I guess so.
That's real. Yeah.
Okay.
That has some, yeah, it's a strange use of this, a very unique use of this utility. I got that off the interweb. So this awk is what I actually built myself, along with finding out how to do this part right here and make sure that we only get file types we want. All right, so let's give her another whirl.
That was probably it.
The whole deal with having CIs, of course, you don't have to sit there and cram through everything. You can just give it a whirl and see if it's good now. A whirly bird.
No.
Okay, if we trust that this is probably going to work, how would we feed a repo? Like we got at least two pieces here. We change into that folder, and we have the repo names. If we just go for public repos right now, not ones that need creds, or just a repo spec, because then we can put the that thing in here for CI token. You could either include it or not include it in each repo name. So we have a variable, right?
Yeah, let me see if I can find a readily available variable. Because there's a lot more work that could be done with this, but it would be really cool too to not only do project queryability, but also based off groups of projects.
Oh, yeah, I thought of that too, like the enumerate an entire structure and just give it a root group and just go through everything. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do that at some point.
We'll get there.
So this, if we variabilize this, then a lot of times what I'll do is just grab it and then create a variable somewhere. So I'm going to create the variable at this level. I always forget if it's variable or variables. Repos to repo list to count, and we'll remind ourselves we eventually want to be able to do a list, but right now we're just going to do one. But then we'd also need, how are we going to get this? I guess we could parse it, then that way we don't need to pass 2 bits of data, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to see if we can find the variable for that.
So now this will flow in as
I think it's
so I can just put that here. And we'll pretend it's not a list yet, so it's just a singleton. And then how could we parse off? And then eventually we can put a loop around this. So if we'll assume we get a list of 1 or more, and we'll put a loop that, just a normal bash loop that goes through and takes each one and throws it into this code. But what would be
there's
what's a regex that would parse out parse off the git or a sed. Can we use a sed? I don't even know. That awesome.
For me, it'd be, yeah, this is where it gets interesting. Because for me, I'd rely on or go for an API route, but that's a little bit more challenging in this amount of time. And then you could do like, we have some environment variables to call, but I'm trying to think about how to get that out to where it's all like star.gets basically.
Does base, you know how you have those utilities that will parse a file name and get just the base file name without extension? Was that work on a URL?
I don't think, maybe.
Base name.
Could do a sed URL replace.
Oh, we could first, you know what we could do is strip off the HTTPS, then it would think it's a file, a folder, right? So if we do a sed to remove sed remove HTTP, oh, it's gonna have to be or PS. Oh, PS. Here we go, stripping those puppies off. This looks like an ancient form. Oh, here we go.
Substitute HTTPS.
Let's try it. So let's test local instead of putting this right in. I'm going to prototype it. Oops. HTTPS. Oh. Echo HTTPS : GitLab.com. Type it into our sed command. Doesn't work. Nice.
Sed, substitute.
You know what? I don't want to be in here because Mac is, like I said, different than Linux. So let's seriously.
Parse.
Let me get Docker up and running.
Let's see. And we can.
I'm going to get that Go container running and see if it works in there. And if it does, then who cares what it does on Mac Bash. Okay, should be ready. Docker run T. Oh, down here. So we want all this guy. Shell. Okay, well that's pulling, then where was that code we found? This guy. Should have a bigger font, but echo. Yes. Okay, works on proper Linux, so.
Right. Of course it does.
Always the whole idea of containers, right? Test exactly on what you're going to run in CI. So I was breaking the rules. So then this base name file, base name should then supposedly work, right? So BusyBox. We're still in BusyBox, but we. Okay, base name. So it doesn't have base name.
You get their APK though, right?
Yeah. Is there a package for it?
Let's see if I can find it.
We're already APKing. Otherwise, we'll have to go. We'll have to be real men and do a real regex, man.
I know.
We could be here for days.
I know.
You'll fall over. It'd be a blank screen on live streaming.
Let's see.
APK.
It's got to be
base name.
Yeah, APK base name. I think it's.
Is there a what package for APK? APK what provides?
I need to get better at APK apparently.
Well, what provides is Yum. So then I just assume that APK probably has one. Who owns?
Yeah, APK info -- who owns. So that tells you that package install.
The packages out there, not the ones.
Then you do APK add base name.
Oh,
and see
okay. Core utils. So we don't have core utils on. Bash. Let's put bash on. We don't have bash. Oops. Okay. Okay, so we do bash, not found. APK, is it add?
Add bash. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, now we got it.
Sweet.
Okay. Oh, I see.
You can do an add APK add bash - completion too.
Well, what
that matters too.
If I'm piping it, how do I tell base name it's supposed to take whatever's in the pipe?
So it should automatically jump to base name. I just gotta figure out what base name we need now, what our options are.
Well, no, it's not taking it out of the pipe, I think, because if I just do it manually, GitLab.com. Oh, look at that. It's not smart about that. No, it's not taking the .com off. I thought it would take the... Everybody out there who is watching us, who is regex experts, one in a million, will be like, why didn't you do regex?
Oh, no.
Okay, so base name has no help either. That's not helpful. And if I do a man base name, it's going to say, you don't have man on here. Yep.
I wonder if you have to do, no.
Regex get repo name from repo URL. Someone's got to have done this already. Extract repository name from a GitHub URL. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, look at that. They're using base name. So why does base name equals? Why isn't it working for us? They just used it directly on the URL. That's what I was originally wondering. Maybe we got some ancient version of base name.
You can do APK.
Oh, look at that. It does strip the HTTPS.
Oh, so not the extension though?
So we could completely use it if we can get it to work like this. Oh, so you still got Git there. And then what do they do? File name equals. Oh, so then they do a variable resolve that strips the extension off. See that?
Yeah.
So they're doing base name and then, but setting it to a variable. So ABC equals, and then they're doing $ABC, dollar expansion ABC percent dot star percent, oops, percent dot star. Boom. Okay.
Let's remove dot bar. Yeah.
So we do this. Okay, so we decided we're going to install bash to get base name. So we need to do that, which is right here. Just add bash on here.
Yep.
And we get this guy, then we're going to say, maybe we should do the base name right away. So paste that code that we had earlier. Here, not code. Can we just do base? No, not base name. We'll just say repo folder. And then I can do repo folder equals repo folder, right? Like this, and reset the same variable.
Should be able to, yeah.
You know, let's be
String interpolation, yeah.
Let's actually try it first. Oops, what did I do? Okay, yeah, sweet. Okay, so that means now we only have to pass repos in, and also if we pass repos with the token, the GitLab token, so that it can go anywhere in GitLab that this runner has access, then it should also work, because that base name should strip everything off. Oops, and then we have to say, we've got our CDs down here, so then the CD would be $repo folder. Oh, and Jefferson, I still remember the first time I learned about this, where in variables in bash, you can do a ton of super cool things with variable parsing just with this syntax. So you don't have to have special utilities and everything. There's all kinds of things you can do with just this resolution syntax. I don't know if you've come across that before.
With bash, I have to always be in it in order to never forget it.
Yeah.
Because I always see better examples and better use cases, and it just blows my mind. There's some really cool users out there.
So I got to admit that while I do loathe regular expressions, I do also find them less determinative than this. So when I do a regex and you get it working for one case, and then there's something different in there, like a curly brace when we go to put the token in, and all of a sudden it stops working. I always hate that about regexes. They're not very determinative. In this case, actually, we should just try base name on something that has like curly brace, get token, curly brace. That wasn't a curly brace, that first one. Let's see if it works. Echo dollar. So we don't do all this work and find out. Ooh, it doesn't, see? Or did I do it wrong? Curly brace messed it up. I should stop setting it. And yet, if you take it out, it still didn't do it right.
Interesting.
Oh no, it did it right, but it didn't do the first one right. So this approach will run into trouble. Let's just test it though, what we've got, to see if we got as far as we hope to get.
Yeah, I know. And then, yeah, it's already 12:03. We can do different things with this. Because ideally, like I said, I'd like to use like the Python API to
feed it,
to be able to declare it.
Yeah.
So then in a config file, a config YAML, you can specify what projects exactly you're wanting to parse through, and then be able to output that.
Another thing I thought of is if we passed in a parameter that was the root group you wanted to start with, then have code in there that would go ahead and just enumerate all of your repositories in that whole tree and hand them to whatever we build here as a big list. And then it would just, this code we got would be reused to just go to every repo, because you'd want to download them all and then count, I think.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Looks like we had a mashup here. Variable. Oh, is it variables?
Yeah.
I always get that messed up.
I know. Stages, it's a thing for me too. Stages and stage within the job.
Okay, that's looking better. Better together. What do you think? Do you think we should wrap it up or try to get it processing a list? What is your preference in your time constraints?
For me, I have a hard stop soon because I got to jump to a fun meeting. But I do. I think we. I do want to get this to a point where it is more of a utility reuse.
Okay.
Because I think it does add value, right? Especially in the DevOps space and understanding exactly how much you have.
So just so the folks out there know, the idea when we're done would be that you could hand it a list of repositories that are anywhere, if they're public, anywhere on the internet, and or a list of GitLab repositories that need authentication. We'll be able to, if the runner has access to them or the user who starts the job has access to them, we'll be able to use a token to get to those. And then a GitLab specific enhancement might be to let you specify a root group, and it will go find all the repos in that root group and do addition code adding on them for you. So that will make it truly a utility for you. And then even if I think the cool thing, Jefferson, is even if you're not using GitLab yet, you could use a GitLab CI job to point at a whole bunch of repos wherever. So
CD line 106 can't CD to GitLab, no such file directory.
Oh, you know what? So the dashes were considered a separator by that whole base name.
Yeah, so I bet it didn't rip it out.
We didn't try one like this.
There's a dub.
Oops. So as soon as you introduce a character it doesn't like, it fails on the whole taking anything off. Oh no, it took the HTTPS off. So it doesn't like the dashes. So then it doesn't recognize them as because they're not a file name separator. You know, they're not a slash or a dot. So
yeah,
I guess next time we'll have to dig in and get a proper regex. Or maybe we should draft a proper regex expert to join us.
yeah. Regex hurts my soul a little bit because it really is just, in my mind, banging my head against the wall until I get it right.
Yeah, you might have to get some therapy. If you've done enough regexes, you might actually have to get some therapy. So
yeah, for real.
Cool. Well, hey, live
Awesome.
coding's been fun with everybody and with you, Jefferson, as always.
Yeah,
great to hang out. We'll hang out this time, and next time we'll pick it up here and we'll get this working so we can feed it a list of repos, and then we'll keep moving along the enhancements we mentioned. It would be nice to have so that y'all can use this as a actual decent utility for counting up all the code you have. If you're using DevSecOps tools that need to charge you by the number of megabytes or lines of code.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, man.
Well, have a good weekend. Yeah. See you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.